Welcome. In this video I'm going to just show you a couple of things you're going to want to do to get organized for this programming class so that we can keep track of all the many files that we're going to create and revise, and then even more importantly that we can make a habit of saving them through GitHub desktop up to Git, so that if something were to happen to your laptop, all of your work would be saved and you wouldn't be in a bad spot. So the very first thing we're going to do is open GitHub desktop and log in. If you don't have a Git account yet, you can go to github.com and create one with your Westminster email address or another email address. But you're going to log into GitHub, make sure you have an account, and then we can also use that same set of credentials to log into the GitHub desktop app. So within GitHub desktop, if you click this little down arrow where my mouse is and you hit add, you get the option to clone a repository that you created in GitHub or create a new repository. So there's a couple ways we could do this. I guess the easiest would probably be to do it on the website. And so we're going to log into GitHub online, and then we're going to click this big green new repository button. And so we do want a template. Actually, I guess we don't want a template. We're going to give it a name. You should call yours programming languages or honors programming languages. I already have one of those, so I'm just going to call this delete me so that I remember to delete this repository. You could give it a description, something like code pertaining to my programming languages class in the spring of 2023. Make sure it's set to private so that your work stays just yours. We do want to add a README file, so click that check. And we also want a gitignore that's templated off of Java. So if you're building your language in Java, you want to click that you want to add a gitignore for Java. Basically, Java creates a whole bunch of other files that we don't ever need to look at as people. And so this will make sure we're not clogging up your changelog with all the changes to those binary files. So that's a really useful thing that GitHub can do for you. We're going to leave license on none and hit create repository. So GitHub has now created a repository that exists online. They're the ones responsible for maintaining it. In terms of, like, if your computer were to be damaged, this is just on the line. It's kind of like a Google Doc. So what we want to do is click this green code button, and under clone you'll see this little copy symbol right here under HTTPS. If you copy that, and then we go into GitHub desktop and we say add, that's how we can clone a repository to our computer. So we just created something in the cloud. We want to make a copy of it on our laptop. So we're going to you can either filter, right, it should show up right there if you're logged in, or you can paste in that URL, whichever one is easier. But before you hit OK, make sure you click choose under local path, whichever option you use, so that we can actually tell it where to put this repository. So I'm going to put it in documents. Under documents, yours would be called programming languages. Mine's going to be called delete me because it's a temporary one for this example. And we'll hit select. So now we're going to clone the delete me or the programming languages repository to this part of my computer, right? Users, Mitchell Grice, documents, delete me. So we'll hit clone, and it's going to clone what was online onto my actual computer. And you'll notice now I have a folder that wasn't there before. It has a README with the little description I put in there automatically generated. And if I look at hidden files, there's also a gitignore that I should be able to open with a text editor and see that it's got some stuff in there for ignoring class files, log files, and then a couple of other jars and wars and nars, other file types that are associated with Java that we don't ever have to think about. They're just created automatically during the compilation process. So we can close that without editing it. You don't have to actually go look at it. But now this programming languages folder, that's where all of your assignments and work for this class are going to live, and this is associated with Git. So if I were to make a change in this folder, like for example, I made a new folder called Unit 0 Grammars, and I added a new file inside of there, which I could do, you know, I'm going to just use text edit really quick, but I could say something like, this is my README file about grammars, right? And if I saved this as readme.markdown and I put it in that folder, so let's go to other, under documents, I have delete me, unit 0 grammars. I now added, now this is RTF, that's probably not the best way to do that. That's okay. But now I've created a new folder with something inside of it that is now messed up because I messed with the rich text format, but it's in there. If I go back to GitHub, you'll see that I have a green. I've created a new file. Now it looks really messed up because of the dumb way I used TextEdit just now, but I could say added a grammars folder. This file exists on my computer right now. There it is, but it doesn't yet exist on my GitHub repo. So it's not really safe yet, because if something were to happen to my laptop, it would be destroyed on my laptop and it wouldn't be anywhere else. So I'm going to make a little comment about what I did, hit commit, and that just bundles up any changes I did and puts a message on them for future me to remember what I was working on. But still, it's not on GitHub. And so I need to either push this push button or this blue one. They do the same thing. If I hit set push origin, it's going to take my changes and actually push them to the internet. So if I refresh this page, you'll notice I now on the internet have saved my unit 0 grammars folder, and it's got that file in it that I sort of messed up. So I could actually edit in here and go back and forth, but it's critical that when I make changes to my files or my folder structure, I put a little comment here, commit them, and then I use the push button so that they're reflected on GitHub. So this is how we're going to go about organizing our code. So for some stuff, you can actually create it right on GitHub or edit it. So if, let's say I wanted to fix the mistakes I made in creating this README, I can hit the little pencil and I can come in here and go get rid of all this rich text formatting stuff and make this file what I actually wanted it to look like, which is really simple. Maybe we just treat this like a subheading. Okay. I could say fixed rich text formatting issue in README. That's what I did to change this file, and I'm going to hit commit just like I did in the desktop app. Now you'll see that my README actually looks correct. But if I look on my computer, I've still got the old version with all the messed up text. So I need to now pull the changes from the internet onto this computer since this one is out of date. You'll notice if I click fetch, it's going to go think, and now it says, ooh, there's one commit that hasn't been pulled to my computer. So if I hit pull, now I go look, and this has been updated to be a proper readme.markdown file. And so you can go through in your repository and set things up like add file. You could create a new file. So I might make a unit 1 lexical analysis, and then inside that make another readme.markdown file, something like this, lexical analysis. I make my little readme, I hit commit, there's my new file, and then if I were to pull my changes from GitHub, again they'll be pulled from the internet to my computer, and you'll notice there it is. The thing I made on GitHub is now in my Finder. I can go back and forth this way. If I were to edit this, that's going to open the wrong program. If I were to edit this, I would want to commit, then push my changes. The thing is, I just want to go back and forth between GitHub and make sure that what's on my computer always lines up with what's on GitHub, so that if I were to damage my laptop, I can get back from here. I also want to make sure that I'm organizing my repository and using these little markdown files to sort of make each one of my subfolders clearly labeled and organized for throughout the year. So we'll work more on this together, but hopefully this helps you to get off the ground with creating your first repository, cloning it to your computer, and starting to get organized and set up for the class.